Welcome to AI Driven, a podcast about using AI for business. AI Driven is produced and hosted by Cognistics, an AI company based in Pittsburgh with offices in the US, Latin America, and Asia. Welcome to AI Driven. I'm Patty Maldonado. This week we're looking at how companies can use AI to enhance the user experience by adding it to their website. And joining us is Justin Waltrip, our trusty data scientist and AI expert for our podcast. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, Patty.
So, looking at AI and how companies can use AI, Cognistics has embraced and launched a new web assistant called SQUARY. And it's turned out to be quite an innovative tool for a lot of companies that are looking to take that first step into using AI. Tell us how AI can enhance the user experience for a website.
Yeah, of course. So I think our chatbot in particular, and just AI chatbots, one of the biggest benefits is just being able to do exactly what the user wants. So when you go onto a website and you're trying to look for information, the first thing you do is try to see if it's somewhere on that page, and then if it's not, maybe that website has like a search bar or something that you can go click on and you can try to type into. But those search experiences are generally not very good. A lot of times, if you don't get the exact keyword that you need, it's going to pull up unrelated documents, or it's not going to be able to find any pages that have that information. And if you have a really complicated question that might require multiple different pieces of information, you're still going to have to go and find all of those different pages and combine all that information together to finally get the answer to your question. And so one thing that a tool like SQUARY can do is that users can just come onto the website, and instead of having to go find all that information themselves, they can just ask that question directly to our chatbot, and it will go out to the website, find all those relevant information for you, and then synthesize them into one cohesive response that just answers your question, and it'll show you all of the different places that it got that answer from. And so it's certainly going to be better than like a traditional search experience because it's going one step further and actually answering your question based on that information. But it's also a lot faster than it would be if you tried to like call that company directly, or you tried to use like some kind of chatbot that actually interacts with a human directly. That is just going to take a lot longer than AI, because a lot of times you're trying to get the answer to your question and you're trying to move on with your day. So I think one of the biggest benefits is just being able to address the problem that the user is actually trying to go to the website for immediately without having to wait for a human to respond.
So what is the capacity of something like SQUARY? I mean, how much can it handle at one time?
So we have the ability to kind of scale up or scale down as we need to. So we can process hundreds of requests every minute, but we can even do more if we have a customer that has a really large website with a lot of web traffic. So it really depends on just which company we're talking about.
And from the user perspective, what is the benefit in terms of, sometimes like I know I've had the experience where I have all these questions. I can't seem to get them out fast enough. Can an AI chatbot like SQUARY handle a wide variety of queries?
Yeah, so that's one of the best parts, is that a lot of traditional chatbots are very rigid, meaning that in order to get them to answer questions correctly, someone has to go in and like pre-program all the different questions that you can ask, or something very similar to that. And then if you go outside of those bounds, it has no idea what to do. But what we're doing is very different. So we are trying to actually use AI and natural language processing to be able to understand the intent of the user's query. So if they're asking for a specific piece of information, it's going to just try to find relevant information and answer based on the information on your website. So it doesn't require someone at the company to actually sit down and pre-program all of these responses, which means that it can handle a much wider variety of different types of questions from users.
So how can companies use that information? I'm sure that, they probably love having a tool like this to really respond to questions more efficiently and more accurately. But what can they learn from those interactions? Or can they learn anything from those interactions?
Yeah, so one thing that we've actually been kind of discovering as we've made this live and as we've started working with customers is that it can actually be really beneficial from a monitoring perspective. So one thing, since we're collecting all of these user queries that the users are asking about the website, we can potentially identify common questions that your clients might have, and we can identify different areas of confusion, and we can use that information to go in and update or enhance the website content based on the user queries that we're seeing. And in addition to that, we can also see which questions are not getting answered. So one key aspect or key feature of SQUARY, our chatbot, is that it also can tell when the answer to the question isn't found on the website. And it's not going to hallucinate or make things up. It's just going to tell you, I couldn't find that information. And so if we see that a lot of users keep asking about this very specific topic and there's no information on the website, we can alert the company to tell them, hey, a lot of users have this question and your website doesn't have any information about this. Maybe you should think about adding something like that. So whether it's adding an additional FAQ section or even just writing a blog post that would address some of these questions, that can be really valuable because they'll be able to address these questions even before the user has them.
So does this type of chatbot help in any other way, like in terms of support or sales, or is it primarily geared to just, responding to user questions about products?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think our primary goal is just to be able to answer the questions from the users and make sure that they have a really good experience when they're using your website and that they get the information they need and they leave the interaction feeling really satisfied. But one other thing that we've worked with clients on in the past is also enhancing your sales process. And so we can actually work with your team to understand like the current company priorities that you might have, and we can adjust the model responses accordingly. So one example is that like we are working on a contract analysis tool for the legal domain with our Square dashboard, which is just the kind of internal company dashboard that we can use for doing this kind of question answering. And so one thing that we try to do on our own website with SQUARY is that if someone asks about the legal domain, we can tell them about like the different projects we've done with the legal domain. But since our legal contract analysis tool is really popular and it's something that we are actively trying to market to people at the moment, that's one thing that we want our SQUARY chatbot to always try to mention if there is a question that's related to the legal domain. And so we could do something similar for other clients if they have other like priorities that they kind of want to make sure their users are aware of.
So do you keep analytics or do those analytics feed into, a website analytics? How does that work?
Yeah, so we work with the clients to be able to show them all of the information, so like which queries the users are actually asking, and then we can also do clustering and labeling of the queries. So we can identify like, here's 50 queries that were all asking about this one particular area of your company. Here's others that we're trying to get access to a support representative. Here's some others that we're just asking about what your hours are. And so we can cluster these queries into those different categories so that it's easier for you to review. And we can also do that labeling or kind of classifying the queries into those different categories in real time. So you can see kind of as those queries are coming in, what the users are looking for and kind of how that changes over time.
With AI, what's one of the things that I've always found interesting is that it gets better over time with use, with engagement. Are you finding that that's the case with SQUARY and this AI chatbot, that it improves with engagement?
Yeah, for sure. So as we give those insights to the customers or to our clients about kind of what queries the users are asking, and maybe they update their website to include that information, we are going to reprocess that information on our side, and then SQUARY, when it answers the question, is going to be able to use that new improved content to be able to give even better responses to the users. So that's one way that just the process of kind of identifying those content gaps or areas of your website that might need to be improved can improve SQUARY as well. And this process just kind of keeps going and going. So that's definitely one way that we see SQUARY improving, but we also allow users and our clients directly to provide feedback on the responses. And so you can give like thumbs up or thumbs down, and then you can even tell us what you specifically liked about the response or what you didn't like. And we can take that feedback and make changes to the model to try to address some of those edge cases. And so as more and more people use the system and we identify more and more different types of queries that the users might be asking, we can try to address those more effectively going forwards.
So how easy is it to just add an AI chatbot? What's the process? What does that entail?
Yeah, so the process is really quite straightforward. A lot of times we will just scrape your website for you, and we can process that information and make it searchable within a couple of days. It's a very fast process. And then we are basically going to give you, the client, access to the tool to be able to kind of test out, see if you like the responses, understand if we want to make any changes. So we could like change the style or the tone of the responses. We could make them shorter or longer. We could use less complicated language or more complicated language. It really depends on what the company is looking for. And then once they are happy with the performance, then it's just a matter of adding a little bit of code or a plugin to your website, which is a very straightforward thing to do. And then it's up and running. And so that process from start to end usually takes maybe a couple of weeks at most for most of our clients to get started. So it's really a very fast thing for us to get up and running on your website.
And it can be adjusted to reflect a company's branding, their brand voice, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's essential because you don't want everything to always sound the same, I would think.
Yeah, and the other thing that we can do is also customize the actual look and feel of the tool. And so our website has there's a blue color scheme to a lot of it, and so our SQUARY chatbot is blue and white. But we've worked with other clients that have different kind of color schemes on their websites and different logos, and so we can customize all of those different things, and that's part of the kind of onboarding process, is understanding exactly how you want this tool to look. But at the end of the day, we understand that it's going to be part of your website, and so we want it to really feel like it is your tool and that you have control over the way that the model is responding, the way that the users are interacting with the system, and the types of responses that are coming up.
So how much oversight is required? I mean, let's say, you put something like this, and I think one of the things that people think about when they think about AI is that it's like it works on its own. You don't have to do anything. But really, is there any kind of oversight that's required, and how much is involved?
Yeah, so there's not like active oversight that's necessarily required, but we do on usually a weekly basis send you reports, and you can even see these directly within our dashboard itself about all of the different information. So you can see the different queries that are being asked, and you can see the different labels that we've assigned to them. And then you can also go in and update the specific responses. So if you see specific user feedback coming in where they didn't like a certain response, or you notice that it kind of missed something that it should have included, you can make those changes directly within the dashboard. And so it's really as much oversight as you are interested in doing. And a lot of times we see that some of that interaction happens a little bit earlier on when we're kind of rolling out the system. But then in the longer term, we have kind of ironed out a lot of those edge cases, and there's not nearly as much interaction that the client has to have with our system. It can kind of just run.
So if somebody's interested in seeing SQUARY, or this AI chatbot that we've been discussing in action, they can go to cognistics.com. That's COGNISTX.com. It's on the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see it. You'll also see a little message that we've added. Click on it and you can ask SQUARY whatever you like about Cognistics, and hopefully it will get the answer right. And if it doesn't get it right, we will make sure that it'll get it right the next time. I know that's, part of the, the whole process is refining the tool so that it gets better and better over time. But we're really excited about it, and I know that different companies that have been testing it and are now using it are really, really happy with the results that they've seen so far. What are you hearing from them?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people are really excited that it can answer so many different kinds of questions, especially if they're used to the traditional chatbot experience where they had to go in and pre-program all of that logic, because that process just takes so long. And every time you want to add something, it's a matter of going into the system and trying to figure out all of the different ways that the user could ask that question and exactly writing the response that you want to see. And so I think a lot of our clients are really excited to see this new generation of chatbots that they can deploy without nearly as much manual interaction.
Exactly. So again, visit cognistics.com. Check out SQUARY. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of our site. And if you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us. Email info@cognistics.com. You can schedule a meeting with our CEO on our website. And in fact, SQUARY can put you in touch with our CEO. So that said, Justin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out today, and we'll be back in another couple weeks with another show from AI Driven.
Thanks for listening in. Learn more about how AI drives what we do at cognistics.com.